Hold on, we're almost ready. All right, good evening. I welcome everyone tonight to our virtual town hall meeting to discuss our return to learn plan. I have here today is Dr. Richard Reynolds, who served as our principal of the high school, who now serves in a new role as the director of health and wellness. Tonight's plan, we've worked extensively since the outbreak has occurred to come up with a safe and secure plan for our staff and students to return to school. Our intentions are to make sure that everyone, staff, students, administrators, parents, when we return to school and when we return to school, and we don't know when that would be, are in a safe and in a safe environment. Um, the health of all of our employees, the health of all our students are the paramount concern of us, and we want to make sure that everyone is safe. So this plan today is a culmination of meetings with teachers, parents, administrators, to come up with the best pathway back. And I'll start this off by saying that the plan is fluid. It is not set in stone. It's based upon the conditions on the ground. Next week, we could come back and say we're going to start all remote. It's all based on what happens in the community. But at the end of the day, we will eventually come back to school, and this will be our plan moving forward. So without further ado, I'd like to bring Dr. Reynolds to the screen, and he will proceed to go through our return to school plan. One moment while I pull up our presentation, and then we will begin. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Reynolds.
All right, good evening, everyone. As Mr. Jolly has discussed, this is a collaborative effort. It was not something that was done in isolation, that I did on my own, or Mr. Jolly did on his own, or just from the board. This was a collaboration of teachers, of community members, of just everyone possible who had some interest in making sure that our students were returning to school and our staff returning to school safely. So some of the guidance that we received were from the CDC and also from the Ohio Department of Health and also the Ohio Department of Education, as well as the Cleveland Clinic. We can go on to the next one, how this was developed. So while we're going back to that screen, how this was developed, right at the end of the school year of this year, it was on March 12th, where we were basically alerted by the state that this was the situation that we were in as a state. So we had one day to basically make adjustments. And luckily, our school board placed us in a really good situation where we had technology, we had resources that we could provide for our students. We had also started with working on online efforts of Google Classroom, Google Meets, and so on and so forth. So we were prepared, and Mr. Jolly charged us with making sure that we learned what we could from that short time, and we applied that to this plan of today. And with applying it to the plan, we really got to understand better how to approach instruction better, how to ensure that we're taking appropriate steps to ensure that kids are safe, how we're communicating with the public and all stakeholders. So those are the things that we learned, and we applied it to the making of this plan. And in the making of this plan, the first area that we knew that would be extremely important to all of us was just safety, ensuring that we were taking all the safety measures possible to take care of kids, and take care of staff members. First off, masks, we'll get into every bit of that, but masks are something that's gonna really help us to prevent the spread of COVID within our schools. Masks, social distancing, they work hand in hand. Also sanitizing areas. going to our high traffic areas to ensure that, we are hitting those areas consistently. And it's not something where we just go and then we go and wait for the end of school, but throughout the day, we having those touches to make sure we're hitting doorknobs, to make sure we're hitting railings, those things. And also daily screenings, we'll get into that, where before students enter the building, before staff members enter the building, they'll be screened. Also, before entering buses, they'll be screened. Also, with social distance, as we said, and limiting gatherings, large groups held together. Those are areas that we're pushing towards preventing. And lastly, one of the safety measures that we pulled from the CDC was just limiting visitors in the building. What we need to do is to create opportunities for parents who are interested in seeing what's happening in the building. We're going to be working on virtual tours and also doing our parent-teacher conferences, doing those online and by appointment. And the next area is basically for everyone. This is a slide that was pulled from the Cleveland Clinic that really just talks about the general practices to ensure that we are keeping safe. We're definitely going to be doing these things at the school building, but these are some things that parents can do at home as well. Wearing masks, make sure you cover your nose and mouth when you're coughing, cleaning and disinfecting areas, and staying home when you're sick. Those are some of the things that we're doing, but this information is basically for everyone to really take notice on. We thought it was important to include that in our plan. So the first area, when we're talking about just keeping everyone safe, one of the things that we're asking staff and we're asking parents to do is to do those self-assessments. That means that basically before leaving home, check temperatures, ensure that your temperature is not high, ensure that you're not displaying any symptoms like coughing, chills, sore throat, so on and so forth. But just to look for those things before you're leaving home every day. And if for some reason that you're unsure, we're asking you to stay home on those days and to keep your children home on those days.
And this is very important because this is going to take a team effort. We really need our parents and community members and our grandparents to do that self-assessment. The last thing we want is a student to come to the bus stop and have a temperature. So if that self-assessment is done on each child before they leave, we can prevent a lot of situations from occurring.
And as I stated earlier, our best weapon is going to be our social distancing and face covering. For face covering, we're highly recommending that all students wear face coverings throughout the day. We understand that there are going to be some students who are having some difficulty with that because of their age or because of medical reasons. We're taking into account all of those things, but what we're recommending is that all students wear masks. Again, it's about keeping each other safe, keeping our teachers safe, and by doing these things that we're asking, we're keeping each other safe throughout this building. When we're talking about face coverings, we're asking parents to provide their students with face coverings. However, we do have a large supply of masks, of disposable masks that we'll be providing students in any situation where they've lost their mask or it was damaged or so on and so forth, because we want to ensure that we're doing all those extras to keep kids safe. And the next slide just kind of goes into the different areas for waiting on the bus, riding the bus, which we'll get into a little bit later, entering and exiting the building, transitioning between classes. Those are the areas that we want to ensure that everyone is wearing masks. But again, what the state has asked for was from 3rd grade to 12th grade to make that mandatory. But what we're doing is we're highly recommending all of our students who are in the building to wear face masks.
Okay, Dr. Reynolds, can you speak up a little bit? Some of our parents are saying they can't hear.
Understood.
Okay.
Is that a little bit better? Okay.
Yep.
So the next area is face covering for staff. It's recommended that all staff members wear face covering, no matter who the staff member or their position in the building, wear face covering when around students. However, if teachers are in the classroom alone or in offices, those are times where social distance is at its maximum, so they would not need to wear their masks at that time. But anytime that you're around students, we're asking that all staff members wear their masks. So when we're talking about social distancing and masks, there are some things that we try to do, and we use the term layering. We're talking about layering with social distancing, with face masks, with cleaning on a regular basis. We're doing those things to create layers. But what we wanted to do is ensure that we were taking all the opportunities and using all the devices and technology out there to protect our students. So as you see, this is a slide that goes over what social distancing will look like in the classroom. I was actually just over at the high school today, moving around desks to ensure that we were able to social distance in that classroom, in that lab, and we were able to do so with ease. And in addition, what we've also purchased are face guards for our teachers. Every teacher will have a face guard assigned to or provided to them. We also have enough for students as well, those students who are having some difficulties. But the last thing that we're doing here is providing with desk guards. Those are not things that are recommended or required by the state, but those are the extra layers that we're trying to do as a district just to keep our children safe and to ensure that our parents understand that we're doing our best to provide our students with everything possible to prevent COVID.
And we've bought over 1,200 desk guards, and we are also making some internally. So we will have, and like Dr. Reynolds will reiterate later, whenever we start school, we will have enough desk guards to ensure that everyone has one. Just like if you go into a restaurant right now, you will see these type of barriers in place. We will have these type of barriers inside of every classroom and cafeteria in our district.
All right. So when we're talking about those layers, additional layer that we're providing is the screening, as we talked about with the buses, but we're also going to be screening students as they enter the building. As they enter the building, this is actually similar to the device that we purchased. We purchased a number of these devices just to ensure that we are taking the temperatures of the students as they enter the building. This is a flow chart that shows you exactly what it looks like. Once they come to the door of the building, the temperature is checked. If it's not a temperature that's above 100.4, then they'll move on, proceed on to class. However, if there's a situation where the temperatures are high, what we'll have them do is report to the nurse, who will take the temperature once again. However, if that temperature is still high, we are identifying spaces in each building where we're calling kind of an infirmary, where students will be placed until their parents are able to pick them up. So we are thinking of every situation that possibly could happen. A student, parents did not do a self-assessment, or they just left the house and they came to school and weren't feeling great, and we caught that at the door. What are we going to do next? So we are providing if-then type of statements to ensure that, once something happens, that we're able to respond appropriately.
And to reiterate what he's saying, we are taking temperatures every day. We've purchased thermometers, touches thermometers for all of our buses. And we also have that machine there that will be at every entrance to our school, which would take the temperatures of both faculty and staff as they come in. And we're working on our procedures and protocols in case a person is whose temperature is elevated. So we will have a distinct system in place, as Dr. Reynolds said, for anybody who is not meeting the requirements to come into our buildings.
So transportation has been a question about how we're going to keep kids safe. One of the ways that we're keeping kids safe, so again, we're talking about the self-assessment, but one of the ways that we are keeping kids safe is that we're taking temperatures prior to them being placed on the bus. As they enter the bus, there are also going to be hand sanitizer stations right at this door as they enter the bus. So they'll hit the hand sanitizer station and they'll be loading from the back to the front. Here's a diagram that kind of shows exactly what we're looking at. There's one situation where kids without masks, here's what it looks like at the top of the image. But what the CDC has recommended, and also others have recommended, is that students wear their masks on the bus. And if they're wearing their mask on the bus, that students may be seated up to 2 per seat, but within the same family whenever possible. So we're trying to ensure that those family members are able to sit together in order to transport from home to the bus, from school back home. And what we're trying to do is to ensure that everyone is safe, and including the drivers, and the drivers will also be wearing masks as well. What we're asking our elementary school parents is that if they could walk students to the bus. And we understand that that can't work in many situations because there are parents who are working or just getting off work, and there's someone else who walks their child to the bus. So what we're coming up with is additional responses to kids who are temperatures are high. What we've played around with is kind of a rescue bus, and the bus that will be in the area, because we will talk about how we're splitting up the school in one of our scenarios. But there'll be available buses in order to pick up students and take them directly to the infirmary that we talked about a bit earlier. Cleaning and disinfecting. As I stated earlier, this is probably one of the most important things that we have in place. What we have right here are the guidelines are hitting every area of the building, especially the high traffic areas, using the correct products to ensure the safety of our kids, and making sure that kids are not sharing items like lockers, art supplies. We're doing everything possible to ensure that those things, because we don't want to cause any type of cross contamination. So when we're talking about sanitizing, we purchase various different items, including technology, electrostatic sprayers, to ensure that we can go ahead and sanitize areas in a fast yet effective way to ensure that kids are safe and that we're consistent, because kids in certain situations will be moving throughout the building, and we have to make sure that once they leave an area that we have to go ahead and sanitize certain areas. What we're also doing is working with our teachers to create some type of routines in the classrooms, whether it is hand washing on a regular basis. Every hour they go to the sink and wash their hands or use sanitizer, or in situations where they're transitioning, before they're transitioning, they'll clean their areas. But we have to have that routine in place. And those are the things that we're working on to not only just leave it in the hands of our custodial team, but everyone, as Mr. Jolly has spoken about, everyone has to play a part in this. And that's where we will need the help of our teachers and also the help of our students in order to keep their areas sanitized. So now we're going to go into how we're going to provide instruction for our students. This is one of the areas that we want to ensure that everyone understands: the remote learning approach. The remote learning is basically those things that we were doing last year, but we've learned a tremendous amount to how to engage our students, how to employ gamification, how to employ different strategies in order to make it interesting for our students and also to hold our students accountable. So remote learning is one of the options for our students through any of these scenarios and through any of these levels, as we'll talk about a little bit later, how we're monitoring those levels. Through any of those, remote learning will always be one of the options, but we're asking that once a parents choose remote learning, that it lasts for the semester. That would allow us to maintain a level of flow when we're talking about instruction for our students. So if you're signing up for the remote learning, it has to be for at least a semester. At the beginning of the semester, you're fine with being online, but somewhere halfway through or towards the end, you're thinking you're a little more comfortable with coming back to school to do more of the blended approach, which we'll talk about, then that is your opportunity at the end of the semester to then make the change.
So I want to reiterate that this choice is always available to our parents. Online learning is always available. This is a choice that every parent in the district has. We're not forcing anybody to come back to school. We are allowing every parent who wants to their child online, you have this option. And we encourage you, if you feel this is the best option for you, to sign up for it. It will be improved from the spring. Our curriculum team is working very hard to ensure that students are engaged. They're on a daily basis. We are working very hard to ensure that our scope and sequence and that our kids do not fall behind. We all understand and know that online learning is different than in-school learning, that some students need structure, but understanding the conditions of today, we have to do and ensure that our kids are learning at the highest level. So again, it is going to take a team approach. We will have some parent university classes coming out to try to assist parents with the curriculum, assisting them with the technology and understanding how to manipulate through the technology that our students need. Because as our theme, one team, one vision, one goal, in order for this to be successful, it's going to take all of us together, working in concert to ensure that our kids don't fall behind. That is our biggest concern, is that without students in school, that they're gonna fall behind. We understand how this system is and how they like to test kids. As soon as we get out of this situation, they're gonna try to test the kids again. And we do not want our kids behind at all. They've been out of physical school since March. Many will be out continuously and to choose the online. How do we make sure that they stay caught up with their peers? Because there are some districts that's going to go back, and those students will be in class every single day, and they will continue to learn with a teacher present. But how do we, as Warrensville Heights City School District, maintain our momentum and ensure that our kids do not fall behind? And it's going to take all of us. It's going to take the district, it's going to take parents, it's going to take all of us working together, and it's going to take sacrifice and effort, because our people are going to have to make sure that you, as parents, have the tools to be successful. And we all got to support each other to ensure that our students get what they need. Because when this is all over, we need our kids to continue to be on track or above where they need to be in this world, in this society.
So the next area is probably most of you have already heard of the blended approach. We also refer to as the hybrid and 8A B-Day schedule. What this means is basically half of the students will come on a particular day and the other half will be working online, and then that will change. For instance, if it's a gold day, those gold students will be working on Monday, and then they will come back to school on Thursday. And then on the following, on the Tuesday, and then on the Friday would be the next group. So what that really means is that half of the students will be in school and the other half of the students will be working online on particular days. However, on Wednesdays, all the students will be working online and working on that. That will be the opportunity for our teachers to do some professional development, to complete some of the assignments for the online learners, and also for our custodial team to do some heavy cleaning on those days. And on those days, transportation will work the same way, where what we're decided to do is to really work it at an approach. Because one of the questions that we had that came from online, one of the questions was, how do we ensure we're keeping families together? So one of the strategies we decided to use was to split the district in half by using Green Road as the marker. One side of Green Road will go on one day, the other side of Green Road on the other. That will allow us to keep our families together, and it will also help us to utilize some of the transportation to create some opportunities for, just in case some kids are sick or showing some symptoms, we can use some of the buses to transport those kids to the infirmary locations.
And it also will eliminate people coming to school the wrong day or scholars coming the wrong day, because if there's no bus in your neighborhood that day, there's no way you can come on the opposite day. So we thought that out very thoroughly. And plus, the kids who are living around each other are socializing anyway. They're playing with each other anyway. And we got that feedback from our parents. We had a parent focus group, so that we are being consistent with who is around each other, even when they come to school. Each desk, as Dr. Reynolds also said, will have these desk shields around them. These desk shields protects the teacher and the student. Every mechanism or strategy we have is protection for the teacher and the student. We are not utilizing any strategies that's not thinking about our teachers or our staff members, our custodians, myself, Dr. Reynolds, because we're in the school every day. We want everybody safe. So every process, strategy, clean practice is to protect everybody, not just the students, because the students are our main priority, but our teachers and staff are our priority also. So everything, again, is one team, one vision, one goal. Everyone has to work together in concert to ensure that everyone stays safe. And again, I'll reiterate, when we go back to school, it's no guarantee that we will be going back to school at the end of the month. There's no guarantee of that. Things change by the day, but eventually we will go back to school. And when we do go back to school, we have to have a plan, and we have to have a plan that we implement slowly. We're not just going to, it's not one day we just bring everybody back. It's going to be a staggered a process of bringing people back. So this plan is for now or it's for later, but it's a plan that we believe will ensure the safety of everybody, ensure that people have choices and options, and it'll lead us to when we can get back to the way things were pre March 12th.
So what I've created here, I know that we can tell you what the schedule will look like, but this is basically what it is. It's Group A and Group B. However, we're going to be referring to it as gold and the gold group and the blue group and the gold group. Where those Mondays and on those Thursdays for the first group will be in-person instruction. And on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, it will be the online instruction. And as you can see, it is the same for the B group as well.
And what our curriculum team is working on is ensuring that every day students get a live lesson or they get a online lesson with a teacher. So basically, in essence, what we're working toward is that when your student is in session, they will get the live lesson when they're in school. When they're not in school that day, it will be a tape lesson for your child, so that we continue the process of ensuring that we are covering the curriculum. With that, on Wednesday, we're still working on how that's going to look, where a teacher might have office hours or something to ensure that they can help students who are on their online day with any questions they have, so that the continuum of the curriculum is maintained. Because again, when we get out at the end, we want to make sure that we are where we're supposed to be or above where we're supposed to be when things get back to normal.
Yeah. And Mr. Jolly, if I can just kind of reiterate something that you said a little bit earlier, we just want to make sure that we're taking care of kids, that we're taking care of families as well. We heard parents loud and clear that, you know, it was a struggle with the online piece and trying to teach kids, you know, as they had to work or any of their situations. So we're trying to create those things, as Mr. Jolly said a little bit earlier, with the parent universities. We're trying to develop an idea about tutors who can help you kids who are online, but we're trying our best to think of every avenue just to make sure that we're responding to everything that we've heard from you. So back to this final approach. This approach is something that we kind of hold kind of close to us, because it's important for us to have the data first before we can even move with this. With this situation, in case the numbers for our online students, in case those numbers are high, which will leave very a little amount of students who are actually be in school, that will give us more room to provide more in-person type of instruction. So with this, we will be pushing for a more of a hybrid type of situation where pre-K to 5 students will be coming every day. And then 6 to 12 will be doing the blended learning approach. But again, this is not something that we're dangling out there, but this is something that we're putting out there just in case our numbers are low for those students who are returning to school, that we'll be able to do a little bit more because the numbers will be small.
And in essence, if we have 10 or less in a classroom for both A and B days, we might as well just bring all of them there every day. There's no need of us alternating it, because we will be able to social distance 10 kids in the classroom. We went to our elementary classrooms, as Dr. Reynolds reiterated, he was at the high school. We did 20 desks 6 feet apart. So we can social distance 10 students with no issue at all, and in the cafeteria. So we will look at the numbers. The numbers dictate everything we do. Everything we do is dictated on how many parents sign up for online, how many sign up for the hybrid in-school model. And then after that, we probably will have another town hall meeting once we get the numbers and be able to announce how things will be. And then also we will have to be in constant contact with you, because as things change on the ground, we will make announcements on how we will start school. Again, and I want to keep reiterating this is fluid. This is a structure, a plan, but it's not set in stone. It is based upon what the health department, the governor provides us, information they provide us. They come back tomorrow, and Dr. Reynolds will go through more, but we'll talk about that later as he goes through it.
That's actually a nice segue. And if you go to the next slide. All right. Most of you have seen this. You can go online to pull up the different levels of where we are and by county. It is the Ohio Public Health Advisory System. This is one of the areas or one of the pieces of information or resources we'll be using to help us with making decisions on what we're going to be doing as a school. Right now, as a district or as a county, we're at level 3. More information just came out today where some counties have moved up, some counties have moved down. Right now, Cuyahoga County remains a level 3, and we're going to be using this information just to monitor. And what this is all about is the number of cases in each of the counties. Some of those counties look a little different because, again, I said the new information actually came out today that I just received. But that is what it looked like on 6/30. And if we can go to the next slide, on the next slide, it shows how we're going to respond to those different.
I'm sorry, I went ahead too fast.
Okay, that's all right.
Hold on. Give me 1 second and come back to it.
So it talks about just how we're going to respond according to the levels. For level 4 is basically the highest level for any county. So level 4 automatically means that we'll be going to remote learning. Again, we're at level 3 right now, which while we are still proposing kind of a hybrid type of situation, because according to CDC and according to the health department and also the state, it is safe for us to, as long as we have a solid plan in place. So with level 3 that we're in right now, also once level 2, those are the areas where there's a blended model where we'll be doing all the things that we've been talking about. But in addition to that, level 1, what level 1 looks like is basically the virus is not gone. However, the numbers are down. At that point, we'll go to a full everyone back in school type of situation where the campus reopens. However, that doesn't mean the virus will be gone. So we'll still be working on trying to social distance, the wearing of masks, all of the safety precautions, the cleaning, the hand washing routines. We'll still be doing those things, but because level 1 states that the numbers of cases are down, then we'll be able to reopen our schools fully. So what are our next steps? Here's where we need you, and we need you to spread the word to ensure that we are taking advantage, because this information will determine exactly what our next steps could be. It's time for you to make a commitment, whether you are feeling safe that our plan is solid, or you're comfortable with what we've stated and you want to return and the hybrid works for you, then you'll choose the hybrid. However, if you feel still there are concerns, then you will commit to the online option. What we need for these commitment forms, and they are online now. If you go to our district website, they're online now, and we need for you to have this completed by Friday, July 31st, by 5:00 p.m. If you, at all possible, after this thing is over, can go directly to that, or if you need to talk it over with your family just to understand what your best options are, we need for you to make those your selection as soon as possible.
So on that form, for those who might need help with technology, it is a place on the form to indicate that. We will deal with technology issues on a case-by-case basis. We want to ensure that every student and parent has the resources necessary to be successful online. So if you do have technology issues, you can note that on the PowerPoint, on the commitment form. Again, I'd just like to reiterate is that we're not forcing anybody to make any decision either way. We are providing, in our first survey, we heard from parents that some parents want their kids to come back to school, some don't. We want to be able to provide an option for whatever suits the families of Warrensville Heights City Schools. We do also want to say that due to the conditions on the ground, we might all be remote. I mean, that is always on the table. It's always can happen. But if the conditions, if we were today, if we school start today, we would try to have the hybrid model and the remote option. There was a question about summer school. We are going to do the summer school online. The reason why we're going to do summer school online is that we do not have all of our protective equipment in at this time. So since we don't have the equipment in at this time, we do not want to start summer school without it. So we will have it in by August, I think 10th. We'll have all our equipment in by then, and we'll have it all set up and ready to go. But our kids need to start school and summer school, so we elected to have it online because we were not ready with all the materials that we've ordered. We haven't received them yet. So the form is online, and it should be available now. If it's not available right now, it'll be available momentarily. It should be placed and open at this time. I wanted to answer a couple more questions. A question about preschool. We'll be coming out with correspondence about preschool, but preschool will start. We just have to figure out the form on how preschool would be with computers. So we're working on that preschool, and we will send something out, correspondence out about preschool pretty soon.
All right. And Mr. Jolly, if I can respond to one of the questions we received from parents. What are we doing for students who have IEPs? Students with IEPs will be provided with their modifications and accommodations as required by their plan, but we're also going to ensure, as we usually do, ensure that an intervention specialist is assigned to every student with an IEP. So we'll still continue to support students in those manners.
Some other questions, about rules in school and what if kids don't comply. Again, this is going to take a team effort. It's going to take our parents supporting our teachers supporting our parents, and all of us being one with our expectations. It starts at home. This is what we need you to do. We have to support that in that process. Any event, though, a child just refuses to follow directions, then we will have to recommend them to go online because everybody's safety is at stake, and we cannot allow anybody to put anybody in jeopardy. So we will do all we can to help support every student. We will do everything we can to give them the encouragement. We talked about, and some questions said about, kids can't keep them on all day. Well, we're gonna have to have mass breaks some kind of way, figure out some type of routines where, they get to take it off for a minute inside of their desk guard. But we're figuring it out. And I say this to everybody because regardless of when we start back, we're gonna have to go through this. With this plan and how we implement this plan, it's gonna have to happen. If a vaccine come out, we still gonna have to bring people back slowly because everybody ain't gonna get the vaccine. So we're gonna have to figure this out. So this is our structure to figure this whole situation out. And I believe that we have a strong plan that takes the safety of every individual in this district, parent, teacher, student, custodian, food service worker, everybody in consideration.
So here's another question. How will you maintain social distancing in the hallways? We're going to need to help teachers, but we've also created some visual aids in the hallways, especially for our younger age kids, where we have pawls. They're actually pawls that we're going to be placing on the floors in the hallways to show kids how far they should be apart from each other if they are transitioning in the hallways to the restrooms, so on and so forth. So we have signage all over the place that's basically reminding, and just teachers and staff members just reminding students and setting up routines where kids can't gather in the hallways, where we're staggering dismissals or we're staggering times to go to the restroom. Creating those structures within our individual buildings. Those are the things that we're doing just to alleviate the issues that may come if we just kind of ran school the same way. A lot of things in our schools are going to be different, and our teachers and our administrators have all been voicing their concerns and their ideas on how to make this thing as practical as we possibly can. So things are going to change, but we're going to need the help of not only just staff and students, but also of our parents, just to remind our kids, make sure we're social distancing. Even at the bus, that's where we're going to need parents the most, because we can't monitor them at the bus stop in the mornings in order to ensure their social distancing. So one of our parent groups, they're actually coming up with some ideas as a community, as an area, as a street or a neighborhood, just to ensure that they are helping out in those areas as well.
There's a question about athletics. As of today, athletics is moving as normal. The teams have been practicing. The OSS, Ohio Athletic Association, has put out guidelines, but again, that can change at any minute. There's a meeting next week with the LEL, Lake Erie League Conference, to determine what direction they want to go. At any point, it can be shut down. But at this point, we are attempting to have the sports and activities and band. And most districts around us have continued that process. Any other questions, Mr. Reynolds? What if someone gets sick, Dr. Reynolds? Say a teacher we find out a teacher has it. What is our process with that?
So immediately the teacher is isolated. And then we do a little bit of the contact tracing to ensure that the teacher remains 6 feet away from students, that masks were being worn appropriately, to ensure that we don't have to do more. So what we do is make sure the number is usually 14, but it goes into really details. The plan goes into real details on 3 days after the fever is done, or there are no symptoms, and then another 10 days. So the magic number is 14 days out or isolated quarantine from anyone. At that point, then they will then return to school after the 14 days, and then they will return. But what we're trying to do is to ensure that we're monitoring students, because we're looking at symptoms. We're screening at the door to make sure that we don't run into situations where we're putting anyone any type of harm in harm's way. So we're trying our best to monitor, to follow those CDC guidelines. Those things that I just alerted you to, those are not mine. Those are CDC and the Ohio Department of Health guidelines and how to respond. So we have an entire plan. If someone is showing symptoms, what we do. If someone is actually has been diagnosed with COVID, what do we do? So we have those things in place that we're going to follow according to what CDC and the Ohio Department of Health guidelines have provided.
There's questions about ventilation. At the middle and high school, we do have the air system cleaned, maintained on a regular basis. We'll up that up. Eastwood and Westwood and John Dewey. They're a little older buildings. The ventilation systems are a little older, but we also have those cleaned also. We just need to get to into October, and get to this brand new building, the new state-of-the-art building. But we are this whole summer been cleaning, getting our systems cleaned out. So we're very confident that the ventilation system is free and free flowing with the air. There was a question about parents and work schedules, and parents, being able for lessons to be in the evening. That's what our curriculum team is really working on, because we heard that in our parent focus group and in other meetings with parents about how the online didn't mesh with parents who had to work. We will send an announcement. We'll have our curriculum team present how online learning will look to all parents. So we will have that pretty soon, relatively soon. We're just kind of waiting on some more guidance and more data so we can determine. We need the data from the parents. We need your data first so we can exactly see how this is going to look for next year.
And here was another question. Will the use of hand sanitizer and hand washing be monitored throughout the day? In our buildings, we place sanitation stations throughout the building. all over the place, whether it's by the restroom or down in the middle of the hallway. We place them all over the place, and each class will be provided with supplies to ensure that kids are washing their hands or using hand sanitizer. But what we're trying to create within the classrooms are basically those routines where teachers are allowing kids to wash their hands. Okay, it's time to wash their hands. And kids will understand that this will be the routine. And in most of our elementary school classes, there are sinks. So we've gone through to check each sink to ensure they're working appropriately. There'll be signage to reminding kids to wash their hands for 20 seconds in those areas and also in the restrooms. But those are the things that we are creating as routines in the classroom to ensure that, kids get into the routine of just washing their hands and sanitizing their hands on a regular basis.
And that's why we did the staggered start, because we wanted to make sure the numbers were manageable and that we were able to go over those routines repeatedly so that it just becomes part of what we do. So the hand washing and just the social distancing and coming into school and all of those things are new behaviors that we have to become our new normal. So again, it's going to take a family effort. It's going to take all of us working in concert together. And again, I reiterate, either now or later, it's going to have to happen. That we all going to have to get all of our babies ready for the new normal of school, of how school will look in the foreseeable future. I'm trying to get a couple more questions, Mr. Reynolds.
Okay.
I'm looking at there's a question about the buses, and like we reiterated earlier, that the buses, we will break the city in half, and we will separate by neighborhoods, and students will come based upon their neighborhood per day. And I want everybody to understand the numbers are not going to be what we're accustomed to, because a lot of people are going to pick the online option. So we are accustomed to 250 students at Westwood. It might only be 100, and the bus might only have 10 people on it. Is the new unknown is what we're facing. There's no school district in the world has ever went through this. So we are working with you as we figure it out. We're trying to get you the information as we receive it, and we want to have the best plan moving forward.
And here's a question. Can my child bring his or her own mask to school? Yes.
Yes.
That is something that we are recommending for all of our parents, to provide the child with a mask. We have purchased several. We have a lot of masks on hand. However, therefore, basically, as I stated earlier in the presentation, for students who forget, because we're going to have that, or they've lost their mask, so on and so forth. We're just asking that those masks are just school appropriate. But yes, we will encourage you to make sure that you are providing your child with a mask. And also, and I'm going to let Mr. Jolly continue with the questions that are popping up right here, but we're going to be releasing a frequently asked questions from our parents according to the questions that you all provided for us, because we don't want to miss out on any of your questions. And that's what we're doing right now. We're going off of that and some of the questions you're providing online right now. But we're going to release the frequently asked questions from this parent form, from your own questions, and just some things that we want to make sure that we reiterate to you.
It was a question about lunches. Yeah, lunches will be provided for all students every day. Those who come to school will get a lunch, but when they leave, they'll get lunches for the next 2 days. So just like we did with the summer feeding, we gave students 2 lunches or 3 lunches. We will continue that. Those who have the online lunch, or who choose the online option, we will probably have a pickup for lunches. So we will do some kind of process. You come up to the school, pick up your lunches for the week or for 2 days, and then you'll have your lunches. So we will provide lunches for everybody. But for the online students, we're still working on how we will get those lunches to the families. The most efficient way for us is for have people pick them up. But we'll work on the process to make sure everybody is fed. Okay, well, Dr. Reynolds, we appreciate you and your work of getting this plan together. It is an outstanding plan. You did a great job on this. our community and parents that's online. We appreciate all the questions. Please continue to send in questions. We will plan something for, I would say within 2 weeks, we will make a big announcement on our next one, where we'll go over the remote learning, how that looks. If something changes and we do not go with this model, we'll make an announcement so we can announce that. But I thank you for tuning in. We thank you for really supporting the district. I do want to talk about construction. That was a question about construction. Construction is not stopping. Construction is continuing. It continued through the first shutdown. It will continue. They'll be breaking ground on the high school and middle school in September. The elementary school will be ready by the end of October. So we will be in the process of moving to the new elementary school. So nothing's stopping on that end. That's continuing. We're just trying to figure out a way to make sure our kids continue to be educated. So we truly appreciate all our parents. Again, we're doing our best. Dr. Reynolds is not sleeping at night. He's working hard every day to ensure that we're together. We appreciate our teachers and all their efforts. We appreciate our staff. And again, it's one team, one vision, one goal. We thank you so much. And we look forward to you'll hear from us soon about our next meeting. Thank you.